What if I told you? One artist just rewrote the rules of K-pop history in Japan, not as part of a group, but standing completely on his own and still competing with legends. Because this is exactly what Kim Seok-jin just did. There's something different happening right now. Something quiet, almost invisible at first, but impossible to ignore once you see it. While the world watches K-pop evolve, while new names rise and trends shift overnight, Jin is doing something far more dangerous in the industry. He's building longevity. Not just hype, not just viral success, but a legacy that holds week after week, year after year. And the numbers? They don't just support the story, they tell it. Let's start with the moment that made everyone pause. Jin has now spent 70 weeks on the Billboard Japan Artist 100 chart. 70. Think about that for a second. That's not a comeback spike. That's not a lucky era. That's consistency at an elite level in one of the most competitive music markets in the world. And here's the part people aren't talking about enough. Only 3 Korean solo artists in history have ever reached this milestone. 3. So, this isn't just Jin doing well. This is Jin stepping into a space where almost no one else has ever stood. But if you think that's the peak, you haven't seen what happened next. Let's go back to 2025. When Jin released Don't Say You Love Me, something shifted. At first, it felt like a beautiful song, emotional, delicate, deeply personal. And then suddenly, it was everywhere. Streaming, sharing, replaying, obsessing. Until one day, it hit #1 on the Spotify global chart. Not just a high ranking, not just top 10, #1 in the world. And here's what makes that moment historic. It became the first song by an Asian artist to reach #1 on Spotify Global in 2025. In a space dominated by Western pop giants, Jin didn't just compete, he won. Now let's talk about Japan, because this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable. Japan isn't just another market. It's a place where loyalty runs deep, where charts are stable, and where breaking records is incredibly rare. And yet, Jin walked into that space and didn't just succeed. He left a mark next to BTS itself. Butter, 100 days at #1. Dynamite, 84 days. Don't Say You Love Me, 80 days. Do you see what that means? Jin's solo song is now sitting at #3 of all time on Spotify Japan. Not among soloists, among everything. Right beside 2 of the biggest global hits BTS has ever released. It's not just impressive, it's symbolic. Because for the first time, you're not comparing Jin to other solo artists. You're comparing him to BTS. And somehow, he keeps going. Jin became the only K-pop solo artist in history to have 2 separate songs hit #1 on Spotify Japan's daily chart. 2 different songs, 2 different eras, same result. And one of those songs, Running Wild, did something that almost feels unreal. It broke BTS's own record for the highest single-day streams on Spotify Japan. Yes, the same BTS that dominates global charts, which means Jin didn't just reach the level. He surpassed it, even if just for a moment. But charts only tell part of the story, because behind every stream is a listener choosing to stay. And that's where his album Echo comes in. This wasn't just a release, it was a statement, and Japan listened. #39 on Oricon's annual chart, highest K-pop solo album, the only K-pop solo to even enter the ranking. #24 on Billboard Japan download albums, highest among all K-pop acts. #41 on top album sales, again, leading all K-pop soloists. But the real history? Jin became the first K-pop solo artist ever to have every single solo release consistently enter Billboard Japan's annual top album sales chart. Not just once, not just during peak popularity. Every time he releases something, Japan responds. That's not luck, that's trust. And then there's the stage, because numbers are powerful, but presence, that's something you can't fake. When Jin brought his solo tour to Kyocera Dome Osaka, expectations were already high, but what happened next? No one fully predicted. Every single seat was sold. Not just the premium views, not just the main sections, even the restricted view seats. Even the top floors most artists struggle to fill. All gone. And across just 2 nights, the concert generated $9.6 million. That's now the highest box score ever recorded for a K-pop solo artist at a single venue. Pause and think about that. Not a group, not a festival, one artist, one stage, one name. And yet, maybe the most emotional moment wasn't on the charts or in the stadium. It was something simpler. At a BTS concert in Japan, fans rushed to buy merchandise. Light sticks, banners, signs. And Jin's items? They sold out first, before anyone else. That moment didn't need statistics. Fans said everything with their actions. They even gave it a name, Jinland, a place where his presence feels bigger, closer, almost like home. So what are we really witnessing here? This isn't just success. It's not just popularity driven by a global group. This is an artist who builds emotional connection through music, earns loyalty in one of the toughest markets in the world, breaks records set by his own legendary group, and does it all without losing his identity. Jin isn't trying to prove he can stand alone. He already has. What he's proving now is that standing alone doesn't make him smaller. It makes his story even bigger. And maybe that's why this feels different. Because this isn't the loud kind of dominance. It's quiet, steady, unshakable. The kind that doesn't disappear when trends change. The kind that stays. So now the question becomes, if Jin has already reached this level, if he's already rewriting history across charts, streams, and stages, then what happens next? Because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that when Jin sets a record, he doesn't stop there. He just sets the next one.